are listening to the Balancing Act podcast. Here's your hosts, Jamie Wonko and Joe Vitale.
Hello, we are officially recording. Welcome to the Balancing Act podcast. I am Jamie Wonko here with Mr. Joseph Vitale. Hello, Joseph.
I could not be more excited because today, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to thank our sponsor. That's right. Teachers Insurance Plan of New Jersey. We officially have a sponsor for our podcast. We're just going to jump right into it and talk about this. We started talking about it over the summer. We are super, super excited to have Teachers Insurance Plan of New Jersey here with us as the primary sponsor for season 3 of the Balancing Act podcast. Jamie, how excited are you?
Who
are we?
Who are we? I know. I mean, we have like little hidden gems in and around our sets.
Yes.
And we are just so excited to be working with the team from Teachers Insurance Plan. And and it's just been such a really fun month, just kind of between us keeping this secret, and we did it, and now it's out. The cat is out of the bag.
It is. So Teachers Insurance Plan, the auto insurance that brings exclusive educator savings and exceptional customer care to New Jersey and Pennsylvania employees. So if you are a New Jersey or a Pennsylvania employee, you should look into Teachers Insurance Plan of New Jersey because, gosh darn it, they are supporting 2 New Jersey educators doing this podcast.
Yes, and I'm really happy to announce that I am not just sponsored by, but I am also a customer of. And so that was part of our journey as well. I, have a new driver. We added our son to our insurance plan. And so I have some, personal testimonial for the company and everything that it has brought to us. And so my insurance plan usually comes up every September. And so I, made some calls and did some pricing and, all the adulting. Because sometimes, like I say, I can't want to do the adulting.
But you did want to do the adulting this time. That is for sure.
It couldn't have been any easier, honestly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which that just kind of happened while all this conversation behind the scenes was happening. So to Chris and to Emma and, also to Nick Ferroni and to, Eric LeGrand, who, I reached out to and was like, hey, they're in New Jersey. We're in New Jersey. Maybe we should have a conversation about working together. And we brought it back to where it all started, bringing it back. Big ups to Eric LeGrand Coffee House.
That's right.
Which is where we went. We had a little meeting. And it's just been a great experience to kind of get this rolling. And, it allows us to further invest in ourselves, to get this message out to as many teachers as possible, which was our goal from the very beginning. And our new tagline is, who are we? Because I don't know how this happens.
It is really, that idea that you manifest something and it, the sky's the limit, as they say.
Yes. And Jamie is not only what's the Hair Club for Men tagline? I'm not always a member, but I'm also a client. Isn't that what it was?
Of course. Yes.
Not that you're in the Hair Club for Men, but now that you're like, Teachers Insurance Plan in New Jersey is also Teachers Insurance Plan of Jamie Wonko.
Yes. And I will say, if you're ever at an event and you see so we did go to Teach at the Beach, which was a really cool thing that they had done back in July because, being from New Jersey and hey, why not go to Point Pleasant? And it did happen to be like 147 degrees that day.
Yes.
And so one of the things that they were passing out, like they had like this little fan, they had a highlighter, teachers love free stuff. We love a giveaway. I mean, who does not love a swag bag, right? So they gave us these magnetic whiteboard erasers. And I have to tell you, it is everything to me and my students. And, I may, as, being sponsored with them, I may have gotten 2 more. Joe gave me his. Thanks, Joe.
Yes,
and I have to tell you, so if you're going to go to NJEA, the conference, and they are giving out some stuff, head up the Teachers Insurance Plan table, and get one of those erasers. Because boy,
and I mean, you never know.
Great.
You might just see 2 amazing podcasters walking around that convention too.
It's true. It's
coming
true.
up. It is true.
Yeah.
Very true.
I mean, we may not be the eye candy that Nick Ferroni offers, but
speak for yourself. Yeah, for sure.
But as we've said before, we are a delight.
We are a delight. That is very true.
Collective
But no, I
delight.
mean, all seriousness aside, like, we're gonna have some ad reads at the beginning and at the end. I'm sure we're
All
gonna miss
joking aside.
all joke. Yeah, all joking aside, we want the seriousness. Damn it!
I never
Been a-
want the seriousness.
It's been a
but then-
day. We are recording, and I did stations today. And when I do stations, it is like
You should check and not do stations on a recording day.
yes, because I have done all the things today. And so I'll get into that in just a little bit. But all kidding aside, it's really great to have a group of people that just having some conversations and everybody drink. I said that word.
And you've already said
also,
it 4 times, so people are plastered.
yes, they're already sheets to the wind, people. It's just great. It was great to sit down. I know that there's going to be some other things in the work for us that haven't even happened yet with the team over at Teachers Insurance Plan in New Jersey.
That's right.
We're still working with human content. Our shows are still on there. So this allows us to get our message out to more people, and we couldn't be more excited. So here we are. And we appreciate everybody that's going on the journey with us and believing in us. And it's amazing to be able to bring this message to as many people as we can. So
That's right. Because we
yeah.
live it every day. We
we
are
do.
there with the children of 2025 doing the thing day in and day out
Yes.
and in and
So,
out.
yes. So there's a lot going on. We did. So again, I was talking about how we did stations and talk about a case of the can't don't want tos. I get to the end of the day and it is so like I felt like a plate spinner today more than anything. Because there were like interactive things that I was doing and walking around, and this was like the first time we were really into it in regards to stations, right? So it was really getting them.
So if you don't, let's just preface this with, if you don't know what stations are, some people use that term as centers. There's
Correct.
birds of a feather, right? So it is the idea that students are going to be in groups and they are going to be traveling around the room as a way to kind of get them up, get them moving, exposed to a lot of material in a short period of time. This is an excellent tool that can be used if it is set up correctly and also pre-planned. It does take a lot of pre-planning on the part of the teacher, and although it can be exhausting, you can really hit a lot of notes in just 1 hour, of time with stations or centers, or is there another name for them? I feel like there's one more name that I'm not. I can't think of it off. Yeah,
Yeah,
but whatever it is. So you did that today with 7th grade.
Yes. So I have a co-teacher with me in the morning. So there's 2 of us. So of course it's a lot easier. We have one person working an interactive map and the other person is kind of rotating around and going to each of the stations. There's one where there's like, they're actually talking about things. Like that's one of the stations where like there's questions, there's prompts, and they're supposed to talk about it. So, but today was more, yesterday and today, the 2 days that we did this was more about like setting up the expectations for when we do this in the future. Like, here's what this is going to look like each and every time we do this.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of like modeling and going through everything. It's like, okay, we're going to transition. What does that look like? And then everybody's moving and doing, going from one place to another, staying with their group, getting them to work as a team, getting them to realize like, hey, I'm going to pick these groups at random sometimes. So you're going to have to work with every single person who's going to work with every single person in this room at some point.
That's a difference, I think, between the way you do stations, the way I do stations, because I choose the stations groups and they never change unless there's some sort of major thing that happens. I specifically choose and set up the groups and then keep those groups for the year.
Yes. I have one class that I may do that with. Just because there are a lot of needs in one particular class that I think it might just be easier to set up consistent groups each and every time and say, hey, guess what? These are the people that are going to work together. Because when I do it at random, we all know what happens.
I can't. And how many stations do you have?
I have 5.
And they're what, 10 minutes each?
Just about like 12 to 13 is what we were sweet spot today. That's kind of where it was.
Oh.
And this was also an activity where this time we have 5, maybe next time there'll be 6. You also gave me a great piece of advice that we should have.
It can't be 12 minutes each because that's more than the hour we have.
Well, yeah, sometimes it goes 2 days. So yeah,
Oh,
hmm
whoa.
yeah,
Oh, that's bold.
yeah. So it works
I
for
could
us.
never.
It works for us. It does. No, it does work for us because it allows us to like reset, come back
Mm,
the next
mm,
day. It's
mm,
also a little bit easier this year because of the way our schedule is. Like last
mhm.
year, we tried to do everything in one period, and we managed it. But this time, we kind of expanded things a little bit and gave them more, um, stuff to discuss and talk about, which
Yep.
I think actually worked pretty well.
That's great.
Yeah,
And what's so great about doing it is that there are so many interpretations and finding what works for you. I mean,
yeah,
I've seen people do like 3 and they're 15 minutes each, or, I just, I'd rather have it like rapid fire, shorter periods of time and have them all done in one day.
yeah.
But because then the next day I always do review of it. But carrying it over to the next day is a completely different approach that, I'm sure works great.
Yeah. Also, this year we did that because of our schedule. We go 4 periods in a row. The way the seventh grade is, so everything's already set up, everything's already there. I don't have to like set it up, break it down. Next class is coming in. I don't have to worry
Mhm.
about that. I could
Yeah.
just like, and then at the end of the second, like the end of period 5, at the end of the my teaching time before I go for my prep, I could just move everything, break it down, and then there's a computer class in my room at the end of the day. So it really doesn't matter if stuff's like quote unquote in the way because she'll
Mhm.
just manage because it's a small group of kids, so I don't have to worry about it. Where before I had so many other like the classes that were in my room that shared my room with me were also very large. So I had to move everything because things would either go missing or they'd be misplaced or broken, stuff like
Mhm.
that. So unfortunately, there's incidences like that will happen. But you're right. There's a lot of pre-planning that goes into it, which I don't mind doing because I think it allows me to be purposeful with the choices that I make, and also allows me to cover like again, like you said, like more material in a
Mhm.
shorter period of time.
Yeah.
So
And I think it's great too because then you have access to smaller groups of students and you can see, are they getting it? Do they understand? What's their focus? What do you need to spend a little bit more time going over again? What are they, what's the takeaway from that? Also teaching like the social skills and life skills and just conversational ability is so important because
yeah,
as I say, human with the humans, please. They're having less and less opportunities to human with the human. So anytime we can give them that
yeah,
in a safe space and sometimes really planned out. I mean, I've even done stations where I've had to give them the topic that they're talking about because they can't come up with something to discuss.
okay, yeah. We always give them some kind of structured
Right. I mean, and
questions to
and
follow
of
up.
course, in my long tooth history of teaching, that is absolutely something I would not have had to do 15 years ago. Present a topic for which kids to sit around and discuss.
Got it.
They would have found something to talk about.
Yeah.
It's getting better. I mean, we're kind of at climbing out of the COVID hole. So I do find them to be much more communicative and finding things to talk about, but pointed conversation, not nonsense.
Yeah. So we give them like questions to discuss. So one thing that I actually really like that you suggested was we do a station where it's like some kind of graphic that they're coloring. So
Yeah.
they might color like the American flag or the Mount Rushmore or something, but we want them to be discussing while they're coloring.
Yes.
For some reason, that really breaks down the wall when they're all kind of doing that.
Yeah.
Um, I've actually enjoyed those stations the most
Yeah.
because I sit and I talk with the students about like what they feel, what they think, how they are, putting the material together. So it's good for me to gauge what their understanding is at that point. Of course, there are kids that always, are not going to contribute.
Yeah.
But I try to make sure that everybody has some kind of say in what goes on, that there's some kind of discussion or closing activity that goes with it. So, but because of that, it's high energy. Like it is a day where it is like go, go, go all the time. And I also have tried to look at my schedule, which is kind of going to lead into what we're going to talk about today. Like when I look at what I'm doing for each particular week, I've been trying to look at how can I find a day in this week where I then put the after stations or after some kind of short lecture or whatever, how do I put this on the students to be more independently working so then I can refocus myself and maybe work in smaller groups with some kids that are struggling language wise, or um, do some things that, maybe need to be done. Maybe while they're working on something digital, I can, grade something that needs to be done really quick and multitask. So, which leads us into our talk about, lesson plans and whether or not they're purposeful and meaningful.
Yeah. What about jobs within stations? So, like in each group, do you have assigned jobs?
I normally walk around. I try to choose a different kid each time. And I'm like, okay, you're the group captain. At the end of the period, when we collect everything, you're going to make sure everyone's name's on their paper and collect everything and bring it up to me.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to make sure that this person's going to make sure that the colored pencils at each station they're like the cleaner upper, if you
Yeah.
will.
Yeah.
So I don't, it just depends on what I'm covering, but yeah,
Yeah.
there's normally some jobs
Yeah.
that need to be done. What are some of the ones that you do?
I think that's why I keep the groups the same, because then the jobs are the same, and if they want to switch within themselves, they can. But the jobs, it's usually scribe, the person whose turn it is to write, time manager, the person who tells them, like, we have 30 seconds left. We're going to get ready to move. I
Nice.
always have someone who's collecting. Yeah. So, there's just sort of this, I also like, it gives them a little bit more, I think, control, and they feel, empowered in that situation to kind of start take care of you there a little bit, and then take care of whatever the job might be that they have. And so it's easier. The job names are the same, but they can, switch within. But even the way that I have them turn in papers is the same. And, there's only one person that's allowed to, like, you're the material or supply person, or you're the
Yeah.
collector, that kind of a thing. And they're different. I mean, I've used different jobs and different titles of jobs based on, whether it's we're doing literature circle groups, or, there's different titles of different jobs for different types of group work. But I have found that a lot of teachers are like, I hate group work. And I feel like a lot of that could be tied into like lack of structure within the group work.
I agree.
And so I feel like the more structured it is and the more consistent it is with expectations, the easier it is to, manage it. And then, of course, by like January, February, it should get better. It should look better than it would, the first couple of times. It can be a rough go, but,
Yeah.
and then, of course, with that being said, I do allow a lot of choice. You can, for this one, you can work with anybody that you want. For this, you can work by yourself, because there are a lot of lone rangers who really do enjoy being by themselves. And
Yes.
and sometimes you just, if you have 3 or 4 classes where you've had to do group work, sometimes it's just like, shh, we're good. You want to be quiet, and that's fine.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you were, almost like a pseudo kindergarten teacher today.
There was some of that. There was
I
also,
imagine that's how busy their day is
yeah,
every day,
and at the same time,
all day.
at the same time, there was there was some drama in some groups just with a couple things. There's kids that are like, I go to the bathroom. I'm like, no, wait. Like, and we have this thing called turnstile where I can look and be like, okay, when's the last time you went to the bathroom? Oh, you went. It's the beginning of period 5, and you went the end of period 4. We're not going right now. The only day I do that is station day, because if you are out of the room during station day, unless it is an absolute emergency, you are missing something that you now have to make up. You're behind. So that's always a challenge for me. I try to tell them, like, look, one of the expectations is we need to try and stay in the room as much as possible for this activity. If you have an emergency, if it's like, I seriously got to go, then go. But if it's like, oh, I'm just bored with this, you got to try and push through, because now we're talking about something I talk to my students about often, being focused and intentional during the school day while they're in class, because I have them for that hour and I want that hour to be as purposeful as I can make it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So when we talk about lesson plans and lesson planning, and there's all sorts of stuff online. There's now, people are using ChatGPT, people are using Magic School AI, people are, why do we still have to do these? Why do we have to submit them? And I think that is a larger discussion that are also decisions that are not ones that are ours, right? they're above our pay grade.
Like
So
so many things that affect us.
like so many things that affect us.
Yes.
But I want to know what it looks like for you when you're planning out your lessons or your units, and what strategies you use that you think are effective, or the ones that you think that are tedious and we shouldn't have to do them anymore.
Well, we have a lesson planning system that we use. And I have to say, I don't mind the new system that we use. It's called Atlas. And I think it's very user friendly. I think that there is a lot of like, I hate to say like willy nilly standards selection, but
Yes.
there are hundreds of standards and they are in a lot of cases already built in, or with Atlas at least we had some curriculum work done for our school districts that people then inputted and said, okay, you're teaching the Neolithic era, here are the standards that go with it. So it's not like we have to sort through hundreds of standards in order to find the ones that are applicable to that particular lesson.
Mhm.
I do obviously recycle some of my lessons from things that I've done before, and I will get in or hook into something new or different depending on the group of students that I have, depending on, what I think is going to work best with them or for them, or, that would be how slow or fast I'm going, because pacing, I think, is always a particular area of difficulty with middle schoolers. You just never really know how long it's going to take to do something that you thought wasn't going to take as long, or maybe they're done, right? We always have those fast finishers. But as far as lesson planning, when it comes to the objective, and when it comes to the standard, when it comes to, those parts of it, I don't know that I think that that really like informs my teaching
No.
as much as, what is it that I'm actually doing? What are we really doing? Right. So I do have, obviously, I follow the rules. So I have my lesson plans. I, obviously know the objective, what I, hope to accomplish. And of course, all of the steps. But for me, like the meat is the important part of it is those steps of what exactly is it that we're doing? What are the kids doing? How are they doing it? What does it look like? And then, of course, what is their final product? So, recently, what's become, I mean, and who knows if this is new, old, different. I hear people a lot like, and the exit ticket, and the exit ticket, and the exit ticket. That's a new like, oh, you have to have an exit ticket, and and so I don't know. I don't always buy into like some of like what the like trendier things may or may not be, because I do like believe deep down in my being that good teaching is good teaching, and it doesn't always have to be something that's like a la mode, but you know, it doesn't look the same. It's always different. Would I mind if someone said you never have to do lesson plans again? Nope.
Yeah.
Do I think it would mess me up? Nope. Not even a little bit, because
Yeah.
I always have my own list of what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, my plan for the month. I like to have a full outlook ahead. I like to know what is coming up within the next few weeks. I like to know what, is coming, and what I hope to have done by a certain point. So I've always sat with a piece of paper written, and this is the lesson, this is what we're going to do, then we're going to focus here, we're going to go, no matter if I'm teaching language arts, or if I'm teaching social studies, it doesn't matter for either of those.
Yeah. So a couple things. Number one, I'll go back to Atlas for a second, right? The one thing I don't like about Atlas is kind of what you were just talking about in regards to like, oh, I recycle things and go back. And I do, but I don't. Because just like you, I like to do different things every year. I like to do new activities. I like to try different things because honestly, it's because of boredom. Like I just find it like doing the same thing all the time. It just gets a little bit tedious. So I like to try different activities, or like, you know what, let's do this one station wise. Let's talk about the parts of the Constitution with different stations, or let's do a video with this one, or let's do a project or whatever. So I always look at things. But I think the most difficult thing for me this year is I can't go back. And I can't go back to the previous year and see what was posted. Now, some of our lessons already posted for this year from last year. Don't know how, but it just went in there. But they're not in the order that I did them. So the reason I want to go back and look is simply because I want to see what order I did those activities. Because I also took some notes like, oh, do this one before that one next year, or this
Yes.
took longer. This took longer than previously done. Because when we switched from from going to 90-minute blocks to 1 hour periods, like that year was crazy, right? And if you walked into my room tomorrow and looked at my plans that are posted on Atlas, I am where I said I'm going to be, because I use those as a roadmap. I also think as we talk about this, James, I'm thinking about like, that's probably how we learned. Like we learned to do our planning that way because that's the way things were back in the day. My goodness, I can't believe I'm saying this.
They were also 77 pages then.
Yeah.
Do you remember like one lesson plan was like 8 pages long?
It was flat out ridiculous, the amount of time that you would. I mean, when I say flat out ridiculous, and then you get one snow day and you'd be like, oh my God, I have to do this all over again. And you'd be like,
Jason still has to do an anticipatory set. Remember the anticipatory set? Like in that terminology, his are still like pages and pages long. It's so interesting, like how different it is, like district to district. I'm sure state to state. I did see recently there was even like districts that are banning the use of teachers pay teachers. And the theory is because your curriculum should give you everything you need.
Well, yeah, that's
so you
great.
don't need to supplement it with anything.
Oh, that's great. But that's a whole other conversation for another time.
Of course. But so it's the same idea. So if Atlas is not, I don't know. Also, it's another thing that we haven't gotten tons of training on. So, there is, can you copy and paste them? Can you reuse them? Do they automatically post? Somebody was just asking me the other day, like there was something that was written like at the top. I said, she said, well, why is that there?
I don't know. I
don't know. And you did it.
I did some of the curriculum building over the summer. And here's the thing. And I'm not, I'll just say it. There is nobody that you can go to for an answer, because I think everybody is the expression I'd always used to use in regards to explaining technology in certain school district is building the plane while we're flying it. Like that's literally what we're doing. We're building this stuff, and then every year we're revising and we're revising. And there doesn't seems to be any clear, hey, you got to do it this way. Like even to the point where I tried to make it where we had a new geography curriculum this summer. And I said, okay, so we have a 6th grade geography elective, a 7th grade geography elective, and an 8th grade geography elective. Okay. They should all look the same. They should all be structured the same, because not every school in our district is going to offer it at all 3 levels. So let's say you have 7th grade geography. You're going to need to go back to 6th grade geography and teach those kids about latitude and longitude and maps and whatever. So you're going to need to pull that unit from 6th grade into 7th grade, and then skip something in 7th grade that you either don't want to do or don't feel is relevant, or like there's certain things that need to be adjusted. So I made sure that when we built it, and there were different people building different grades, that it's like, it's all got to look the same. Follow this template. It's going to look like this in the end. But I don't think we do enough of that where it then becomes more user-friendly, right? I went to the point last year or 2 years ago where I went up to the vice principal who checks our lesson plan. So I was like, hey, look, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to plan for Monday through Thursday, but I'm going to leave Friday blank, because I just found myself like I would be doing like the first month in September planning 5 days, but then we wouldn't get to what we were doing on Friday. I'd push it to Monday, and then everything else would be moved off. Right. And then because it wasn't as user-friendly as our previous system, I was finding it like things were getting jumbled together, things were missing. They were pushing one lesson that I moved all the way to the end, and then I had to move everything down. It was just too. So I said, I'm just going to leave. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it like that. And I said, I'll just push things into Friday once I get there. But it's like, are you okay with me just planning the 4 days? Because like I'm still trying to get a handle on a 1 hour period versus a 90-minute block.
Right.
Because it takes some adjustment. And
Yes,
I
it
have not
does.
been doing this for 10 minutes. So I feel like it takes a lot of time, effort, and energy to make sure that it's done right. Like I still am, I'm not, I don't want to use the word struggle, but I still grapple with being able to plan my units out effectively and covering all the material I need to cover, which is impossible.
Well, you can't.
No, it's impossible.
And nothing is better evidence than asking the children what they know, which is nothing, which is sad.
Correct.
After a full year of civics, how many kids can define the word patriotism?
Yeah,
Y-
I know. It goes one
which
in
is
there.
very frustrating because it's not like, and I've taught all 3 levels of our curriculum for social studies in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And I'm sure that there are kids who go off to the high school and they get World History Part 2, and the teachers ask them, questions, and they have absolutely no idea. And it's so vocabulary heavy. So when it comes to the lesson planning, the idea of covering 20 plus chapters in a book
Yeah,
is never going to happen when their basic knowledge of the word civics, civic duty, the patriotism. I mean, those things are really, really difficult concepts for them to handle and understand. So, and then I often wonder too, it's like if I took all of your kids, right, that I have now, that had you last year, and I had you come in and you stood next to me and I said, okay, you tell me what this word means. All words that you would have covered with them, or terms and topics. Would they know the answer because they're triggered and they see you? And is it some sort of a memory, like within their brain ability to know or not know based on the person that's asking them, right?
oh,
Like it's,
that very well could be.
frame of reference. I mean,
Yeah.
I've read that like very, very successful schools who do really well on state tests make sure that like the teacher that taught them that material is the teacher that is with them when they take it.
Yes.
And I do know this also from trying to have social studies kids write. They act as if they don't know how to write a paragraph when
Yeah, that's very
we know
frustrating.
that they can do it. It's just like,
Mhm.
this isn't my writing class.
And that's why, like last year, when our school district talked more about, they had us learn a little bit about Collins writing, which I know you were familiar with already from a language arts perspective, but I was not.
I wasn't, because Collins writing wasn't part of it when I taught language
Oh,
arts.
that's right. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah, it's a great
But
program.
it's a great program, and I
Yeah.
actually was like very like, okay, wait a minute, all right, I could do
Let
this.
me be
But
more specific. From a social studies teacher point of view,
yes,
for ways to introduce writing in our curriculum with our students in a easy punch in out practical way, it's a great program.
it's a great I agree.
Yeah.
But it's also common language. So when you say, hey, we're going to do a level 1 writing or tier 1 writing, it's escaping me what it was because my brain is mashed potatoes from today. It gives like the kids know, oh, this is the kind of writing that we're going to do. So I really like that. I think that everything that we're doing in social studies should be supporting what they do in language arts, right?
Agree.
But some of the writing that we do in a history class is different than what they do in a language arts class, because like we might be doing DBQs or the DBQ project to prepare them more for the AP classes that they may decide to take, the writing that goes with that, the type of writing that it is, where you're identifying the most important ideal from the Declaration of Independence. Well, they're all important, but which one is the most important?
Yes.
Right? Craft your argument knowing that you're trying to convince me that this one's the most important, but in order to do that, you have to know the weaknesses of the other arguments. You can't go into it saying like, this one's the most important because I think so. No, that means nothing. Well, I want you to use the data and the resources that you've been given to prove to me why this is the most important one. And I do little activities with them where I have them choose something that like, since I'm a Star Wars nerd, I'm like, there are 9 movies in the Skywalker saga of Star Wars. Which one is the most important to the story, right? And then we talk about which film. Then we talk about Harry Potter. We talk about things like that. We talk about like which one of Taylor Swift's albums are the most important to her musical career, and I have them craft arguments surrounding that.
1989.
That's not,
Reputation.
yeah. Oh, by the way, it's Empire Strikes Back, or you're wrong. That's usually
My answer for that was going to be lightsaber.
like it's Empire Strikes Back. Okay,
Lightsaber.
and
Leia buns.
if I see, two things are going to happen. I'm either going to start talking about this and you're going to start snoring, or I'm going to start talking about this and my wife will hear it and come downstairs and start playing like Oscar speech walk-off orchestra music, which is what she does to me when I'm talking for too long.
I almost did it to you a few minutes ago.
I know you probably you probably did. It's like and it's like, someone's got to hook me off the stage. But no, that type of writing is different than what not in all cases, but in many cases that type of writing that we do in a social studies class is different than in
So how do you
class.
feel about lesson planning when it pertains to groups of teachers that teach the same grade and subject area who live by planning together?
I'm okay with it. What I do find difficult is when there's a new person and they automatically have to be folded into that system.
Right.
Where what if they're not that kind of person? I'm not saying that's the case in some of the experiences that I've had, but what about if that person comes like, yeah, I don't do things like this. I do it on my own and I plan it myself and I want to take ownership of the things that I'm teaching and I want to adjust what we're doing. But like, I also get where they're coming from. That's a very challenging way to plan.
It is there are charms to it that I think are really nice. Like with how many students do you have? And then they photocopy, 300 for each other. What I can't get sometimes is there's such a rhythm to different classes. So even for me as a teacher, I can't do it the same in every period that I have.
Correct.
So what I can't get is the idea that you are doing something or teaching in a style that isn't really maybe authentic to you, which is, I think, sometimes the difficulty that people have in general when it comes to looking at other people's lesson plans or trying to understand, what someone has written or the idea of something, because it's just not who they are, or and I do think that the kids feel that and can kind of tell like that it's forced in some way. But that, and so that's always my question with it. But obviously they must have now my department, my grade level, we don't do that. So we are like freewheeling and footloose and fancy free, like everybody does, and everybody shares. And if you had a question about like, hey, how do you do this, or hey, how do you do that? But I've seen other departments in grade level, specifically in subject areas, do that entirely. And so I think it's interesting. We should ask our listeners for sure to let us know what their feeling is about lesson planning. And, do you think it's beneficial to the classroom? Do you think that it is necessary? And, and how has that changed? And what does that look like for you over the years?
If I'm an administrator and there's young staff members, like I'm having them do detailed plans. I'm making sure that I check in to see like, okay,
you can write a 30-page lesson plan and not execute it.
Oh yeah. You 100% can. I'm not saying they need to be long, but they do need to have,
even if they write them out.
Yeah.
That I think is wherein lies my with it, because someone can have like beautiful plans and they cannot execute them.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
No,
So
I do.
I don't always know that I think that those two things are connected.
Okay.
That's, I guess, therein lies the issue that I have with them. I'm not against them. It's just sometimes even turning them in seems like, how do you know? I
guess part of it's part of it's a CYA thing, right? Where your
Yes.
supervisor has to
Yes.
know what you're teaching in case
That's right.
you're not doing what you're supposed to.
Right. But the
Which is all,
curriculum is already given to me, and there's people who are using a book from like 3 years ago.
yeah, they're not even using the
Yeah,
right book.
I guess it's just because it's like this flawed system that I don't know if I think it's like moving the agenda forward in any way, but I don't know if that's, I'm not out of the classroom. I'm in the classroom, right? So my point of view is not wide enough to kind of know. I can only hear and observe what I, think my peers are talking about or what other people are saying. So I could be completely wrong, but I do know that is my biggest pet peeve, and someone who has had a lot of student teachers as I have, and a lot of junior field and a lot of senior field, and I'm watching them write these plans and then not being able to actually execute them.
Yeah, that's number one. Or number
Ooh.
two, once they actually get into a classroom, they're not doing that. No one's ever doing that. The door closes and you are
Right.
building the plane as you're flying it. You are figuring it out as you go because
Right.
it's challenging.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what's the best option? We don't know. If
We
they
don't
said,
know. We're just
honestly,
here to kind of hash it out and say like, hey, what do you guys think?
listen, if they said tomorrow in our district you don't have to turn in lesson plans anymore, I'd still be doing them. Not the same way that I do them now, but I'd be looking
Correct.
at what is
100%.
okay. So what is the standard I'm looking at? What is the objective I want to achieve today? And what activity am I going to do to meet that objective? That's the legitimacy of what I do each and every day.
I don't
Um,
know if I'd look at the standard.
that we probably would still have to teach it. I get that. But there's but that's also like, are we moving the needle when we're, teaching to the standard or writing the objective on the board or all those other things
Right.
that we have to do? Everybody talked about that nonsense.
Yes.
Which, put your learning target on the board. It doesn't move the needle. Okay. You know what moves the needle? When I say, hey, we're going to turn to page 6 or 7 in our textbook, and everyone's like 6, 7, and everyone freaks the hell out.
And they
That
just
moves the needle in my classroom. Still trying to figure out what that means. Hey, listeners. Anyway, as again, it's something that I would still do, that I find necessary and valuable, but I've also been doing it for
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's
27
just
years.
it's a part of our job, and that's what we do. And you do your job, and you do your job well, and you check, 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 check. So I'm not.
Yeah.
I know they're not going anywhere, but I do think in Teacherville there is often a lot of discussion around lesson plans, the validity, the way that they're done, the way they're turned in, who's checking up, those types of things. It seems to be a
Yeah.
hot topic.
No, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
It's definitely something that we, we'll keep talking about. I really would like to almost revisit with our Pod Squad friends, the TCNJ, soon to be graduates,
The NJAEA Pod Squad.
the NJAEA Pod Squad, but our TCNJ friends. Shout out TCNJ, go Lions. Accept our kids, please. So I'd be wondering, like, what exactly are they teaching them at the college level? Because I don't know what that is. I know you've had some student teachers. I don't know how many you've had recently, but even recently, post-pandemic, what are they having those kids, quote unquote, do as they are preparing to enter the classrooms on their own?
Yes.
So, yeah.
We'll have to find out. We'll have to dig a little bit. We have some college connections. We'll have to see what does that
Yeah.
look like as a teacher teaching or as a professor teaching students, to become teachers, educators in the future. And what do those lesson plans look like now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So look, hey, you know what? Jamie, I appreciate you.
Joe,
But-
I appreciate you.
And not only do I appreciate you, but I appreciate our season 3 sponsor. Am I like the king of the segue now? Our season 3 sponsor, Teachers Insurance Plan, auto insurance that brings exclusive educator savings and exceptional customer care to New Jersey and Pennsylvania employees. Special thanks again to Chris and Emma and everyone at Teachers Insurance Plan of New Jersey that is taking a shot on us and sponsoring our show.
And thank you so much, Teachers Insurance Plan, for saving my family 50% on our monthly bill.
She's not only a member,
Not
she's
only a
also
member,
client.
but I'm also a client. That's right. It's so true. 50%. I mean, what am I going to do with my other 50%?
Save it for college.
Buy food.
Buy food. Yeah, exactly. All right, we'll see everybody next time on the Balancing Act podcast.
Bye.
Look for the Balancing Act podcast every week on your favorite podcast platform. New episodes drop every Tuesday. Thank you for being a part of our audience. We appreciate you.